Hey, thanks for checking out this week's video. So again this week I'm trying out something new. I feel like I'm saying that every single video at the minute, which is perhaps a good thing. But I do feel like I'm putting out less art. So although I do actually have an art haul sort of video in the making, I decided this week to put out some actual art because it's been a while. One of the things I really wanted to try, which actually happens to be in the art haul video, is what I'm using in this video, and that is origami paper. Now I have seen other artists use this in a similar fashion. It is basically using nice pretty patterned paper or even washi tape in some cases and using it as part of the art. So like in this case I use it for her clothing. I just really wanted to try my own take on it, and I actually really enjoyed it so much because it was quite simple but has quite an impact because I used really bold colours to bring out what's in the pattern of the origami paper. You'll see at the end, I guess. You'll make your own judgments, but I really enjoyed it and I like the result, so I will probably do more of these. Let me know if you'd like to see that. Now I will come back to speaking about the process of this and the challenges that I came across and solutions and what I've done different and all that good stuff. But I thought I would just jump in to this week's topic. Yes, I actually have a topic this week, and that is commission anxiety. Now, I think as artists, we all struggle with this at some point in our career, or perhaps if it's just a hobby, but you want to take on commissions. I don't know if you ever have somebody come up to you and want you to do art for them, hopefully for money. I hope you guys are getting money and not just giving your stuff away for free, because every piece of art is worth something. Now this topic came about because it's kind of relevant for me right now. I have just reopened my commissions, and in fact if anybody wants a commission then send me a message. Yeah, and it's been a while since I have accepted commissions. I used to do a lot of portrait commissions digitally though, so it's well over a year ago now, and this time the commissions I'm offering are traditional. So I feel like the stakes are higher with traditional because you could get all the way to the end and be like really happy with what you've done, and then something tragic could happen. You could spill something on it, or you could accidentally crumple a bit of the paper, things that you cannot repair like you could if it was digital art, obviously. And then there's always that thing where you draw something one way and you're quite happy with it, and then if you have to redo it, you can just never get it as good as that first time. That would be my luck. I would accidentally ruin it, maybe even show it to the client, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm happy with that, and I'm like, yay, and then I spill something on it and I can never ever replicate it ever again. And then the whole world comes crashing down and the clients are like, oh my goodness, you suck at art, why did I ever go with... And then I'm like, why did I start commissions? That's just kind of always in the back of my head. But guys, I promise, you know, if you want to commission me for some art, I'll be super professional and I'll keep that crazy in the back of my head, just, you know, erase the memory of watching this video. Now I know that was quite a silly example, but it is a genuine concern of mine that something just really tragic is going to happen and I won't be able to recover from it and people will be really unhappy and blah 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 blah. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to produce nice art and I want to make people happy with my art, especially if they're paying for it, you know? And I think that anxiety is probably always going to be there. I think there's always going to be that concern that what you do isn't going to meet your client's expectations. But I think that confidence and self-belief comes with practice and just getting on with it. In the good spirit of getting on with it, I decided to make my first few available commission slots like half price, just to help me get back into the swing of it, because it's not just about creating the art, it's the business side of it too. It's, you know, handling things in a timely manner and time management in general and dealing with postal staff and all that good stuff. But let me know if any of you guys take commissions or perhaps have in the past. I'd love to hear your experiences, particularly if you had struggles with anxiety and I don't know, I guess what you guys did to overcome it. Or perhaps you haven't, maybe it's even completely stopped you from accepting those kind of things. But I hope you're at least working towards something to overcome that fear. The amount of advice I got not to start at half price was kind of overwhelming. The amount of people told me I'm silly for doing it, but that is part of my way of overcoming the fear and getting on with it. You know, once I've built up my confidence and start to have a bit more self-belief, then I'll be happy to double my prices and feel like my art's actually worth it. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about what's happening in the video right now, because I feel like this took me longer to figure out than it probably should have. Now, although I actually had created my lines digitally like I always do, and I printed them out and then I transferred them to the paper, yada yada yada, the original lines do not match the lines that are now a part of the art because I sort of changed them ever so slightly. So although I was using the printout to trace these pieces so that I could jigsaw them back together, the fit wasn't super accurate. It worked enough though. Thankfully I didn't deviate too much from it. So what I was trying to show just a little bit earlier was that basically I was taking my light box and I was flipping my line art that I printed out upside down as well as the origami paper, so that through my light box I could see where to trace, and then once it was cut out, flip back the other way, it would match correctly. I hope that makes sense. So originally I started by cutting out her sleeve, the main part, and then the idea was to have the pattern for her body cut out separately. Initially I actually thought I should completely flip the pattern so it's facing the other way, so you might see me flipping the origami paper about. I hope it doesn't make anyone motion sick or anything. But yeah, I felt like it didn't work as well. It was just a bit too confusing, so instead I kept the pattern the exact same way. I just moved it along the paper a bit more so that it didn't completely match up. Just so that then you've got that definite separation from her arm and her body, just to give a bit of depth. I also left out the collar and the very edges of her sleeves because I wanted to have them a blue to bring out the blue of the origami paper. However, I accidentally left, like you'll see at the very top part of, I guess it's where her shoulder is. I don't know, I didn't read it very well when I was tracing my outlines back onto the origami paper. Thankfully it wasn't too difficult just to retrace that and cut the bit out from the original pattern so it all fit together. But yeah, I'll definitely be thinking that through a bit more next time because it was really hard to all sort of glue together. You'll see that later as well. So once I got the pieces all cut out how I wanted them, I decided to paint the background because I didn't want to stick these down and then paint and accidentally get paint on the pattern and ruin it. Plus it meant I could paint a bit more, like over the lines, so that once I stuck the origami paper down there were no white patches where it like didn't completely match up. There were still white patches which I did have to fill in later on, but it wasn't too bad. Now this is actually the first time I've ever used gouache thickly. If you're new to my channel then you're probably not aware, but I water down all my gouache so it's very much like watercolour, and then I slowly build up the opacity. That's just how I enjoy working with it. But for this I knew outright that I wanted block colours really strong, so I just went in really thick, and I have to say I actually really enjoyed it. It was different, obviously. So I may even try that out at some point in the future. Although I have to say, one of my main goals for this year was to focus more on oil painting, and we are at the end of January and I have not yet touched oils, so that sucks. I'm definitely gonna work on that more. So I'm at the point in this painting now where everything's slowly coming together, but I still don't really know if it's gonna work how I intended it to, because I kind of had this vision in my head that I wanted a really strong colour for the background that pulled out the colour from whatever paper I chose to work with, because I got a few different sheets, and that I also wanted it to be simple. So the part that wasn't using the origami paper, I just wanted it to be pencil and very limited in additional paint. I have to say, the amount of times I was so tempted to just paint like some flesh tones to her skin just to add a bit of warmth. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I quite like how stylized it looks. I would be tempted maybe to do a larger scale one that goes more in depth, that maybe even does a more complicated paper cutout with the origami, and I don't know. I feel like there's so many different possibilities for this. If any of you guys give it a try yourself, give me links. I'd love to check it out. I don't think enough people do this kind of work. Oh, and there was a point where I was gluing on the origami paper, and for some reason I put the glue on the paper, the origami paper itself. And then after it was fully covered in glue and I started struggling to stick it on accurately, I was like, why didn't I just put the glue on the painting piece and then put the dry paper on top? That probably would have been easier to line up, but I had already soaked the origami paper by this point. I managed, but it was difficult, and you can see that because I had 3 different cutouts, I used a bit of masking tape to gently stick them together so that they didn't all come apart and get glued in the wrong place. It did work out, but yeah, I was unsure whether or not I was going to ruin it at one point. So after the gluing bit, one thing I didn't actually include in the footage, because I turned the camera off at this point, I let the glue dry a little bit first because I was just worried about it sticking to my desk. But then I turned it completely the other way around, face down, and I put a whole bunch of books on the back. I was so worried that I'd come back to it and try to pick it up off the table and it would just rip itself to shreds. Thankfully it didn't. It didn't even remotely stick. But yeah, that was nerve-wracking. And then the next thing to do is to obviously remove the masking tape. You can see that the origami paper went over the tape, and that was fine. I'd seen other people using craft knives to sort of cut even masking tape itself to do very specific shapes and things, so I knew that I could do that as long as I cut very gently, and it was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. And once removed, I can sort of judge where I wanted to add more detail and just intensify the sort of stylized pencil areas, and particularly the hair I think needed a bit more focus at this point. So that about wraps it up. This piece is actually available to purchase if you'd like to give her a home. I have revamped my Etsy store, and from now on there won't be any prints for sale on there. I do plan to open a Redbubble in the future, but right now I will be using Etsy to sell original pieces. So if you're interested, do go check that out. The link will be in the description box below, along with a list of all the materials and things that I used. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, then don't forget to give it a like, and if you want to see more, then do subscribe. Until next time, bye!